It is 10 a.m. And therefore I will call this meeting to order. Please confirm the meeting is being streamed and recorded for the public audience.
Yes, sir. We are live streaming and recording.
Thank you, sir. We will begin with the roll call of all the advisory board members. So as I say your name, just if you could give an affirmation that you are here on the call. Eric Ebersol. Karen Bailey. Karen. Dr. Kelly Anderson.
Here.
Thank you, Kelly. Pamela Gaddy. Jaquetta Jacobs.
Present.
Thank you, Jaquetta. Natalie Miller.
Here.
Thank you, Natalie. Jennifer Wimbrell Jenkins. Jennifer. Sheriff Matthew Cristofoli. Present. Did I get you?
Yes, present, sir. Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Chief Paul Kuiper. Chief Paul Kuiper. Leah Weiss.
Lee Weiss, present.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I get it all the time. It's fine.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Laura Moody.
Present.
Thank you. Dr. Tia McKinnon. Dr. McKinnon. David Engel.
Greg Phillips here on behalf of Dave Engel.
All right. Thank you, Philip. All right. Zaria Nicole. Dr. Shannon Hoover. Dr. Hoover. Megan Berger.
Hi, present.
Thank you, ma'am. Thomas Albin.
Good morning and present.
Thank you, Thomas. Gina James.
Sir. Good morning here.
Thank you, Gina. Joseph Camille.
Good morning, sir. Present.
All right. Thank you, sir. Sergeant Kevin Britt.
Morning, present.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Navarro, Maria Navarro.
Good morning, present.
Thank you, Doctor. And Carol Ellen Johnson.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Carol. All right. All right. Welcome, Ms. Johnson. Can we please confirm we have a quorum?
Good morning. Yes, we do have a quorum.
Mr. Chair, I was a minute late and I'm at the top of the list at Delegate Ebersol. I'm present.
Thank you, sir. No problems.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Johnson. The last meeting of the advisory board was in December. The December meeting was recorded, and that recording is available on the MCSS website. As such, there are no meeting minutes to be approved. So we'll move into the agenda. Are there any additions to today's agenda? All right, no additions or a motion to approve the agenda?
This is Tom, and so moved.
All right, do we have a second?
Mr. Cormier, second.
Thank you, sir. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Do we have any opposed? All right, looks like the motion passes. The agenda for today is approved. All right, moving into today's agenda, we will start today's meeting with information about the Handle with Care program implementation in Maryland. Donald Corbin from the Maryland State Department of Education will join MCSS Executive Director Kate Bryan in sharing recent changes to the program. Kate, are you ready?
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. It's nice to see you all. So in 2023, late 2023, we brought the Governor's Office of Crime Prevention and Policy in front of you to talk about the Handle with Care program in the state. In 2024, there were some changes to that program, mainly on the administrative side. So I am very pleased to announce that the Maryland Center for School Safety and the Maryland State Department of Education are taking over the administrative portion of the Handle with Care program. So we're really excited about that. This is actually the first public announcement of the fact that those changes are happening. Operationally at the school level, there really shouldn't be a lot of changes. What is going to change is hopefully some additional support that both our office as well as the State Department of Education can provide to schools and school systems throughout the state and our law enforcement partners. So I'm going to turn it over to Don to talk a little bit about the Handle with Care program and where we're going. So Don, all you. I think you're muted.
How about now?
Now we have you.
Yeah, I never know which set of headphones will work. So I keep one and then I have a backup just in case. But again, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Executive Director Kate Bryan, for inviting me to this meeting. Much appreciated. Kate already gave you all the announcements we need to know so we can move on to the next part of our agenda and the next time. Just joking. If I have my jacket on, it's because it's kind of chilly in here. First thing Monday morning, when you enter into a very old building, they tend to turn the heat off over the weekend, and then it will gradually warm up, and then so much so that even on the warm days, they'll sweat you out. So I don't know if they want me here, want me home, but either way.
Looks like he froze up. No pun intended.
Yes, it does.
That was good, sir.
Mr. Corbin, can you hear us?
Dr. Corbin, you might have to go back out and come back in, maybe. I don't know.
You may want to pause your video. That may help.
He's not visiting. He might be trying to fix it.
So I'll just begin while we're waiting for him to come back. So those of you who were not here in 2023 to hear the presentation about Handle with Care, is everyone on the call familiar with the Handle with Care program in the state of Maryland?
Yes.
Yes. A lot of yeses, a lot of head nodding. Excellent. So this has been in Maryland since 2018. It actually started in West Virginia. So just high level for our public audience that may be listening. So the program is an opportunity when a child is involved in a situation where they themselves, their family, their caretakers are impacted by a situation that brings in either law enforcement or potentially even EMS or fire outside of school. So what the program does, it is allows law enforcement to notify a school within the state that this individual child has experienced some sort of trauma or experienced a situation where it is in the best interest of that child for the school to handle that child with care. I think one of the most important pieces of the Handle with Care program is that no specific details are ever given to the school. And Don, I see you waving back there.
I don't know. Technology is a funny thing. I don't know where you left off, but I'm just going to jump back in, and I
You go
appreciate
right ahead.
you.
I just gave a quick background on what Handle with Care is and that it started in West Virginia. So you go right ahead.
Take it away. I appreciate that. Hopefully these headphones don't go out again or the screen doesn't turn black and I'm frozen. But as Kate indicated, it did branch out of West Virginia. And we have been, and I want to say my name is Don Corbin. I'm at the Maryland State Department of Education. My counterpart, her name is Brittany Flory, is not with us, but she is my partner in crime when implementing this program across the state. And just a few things to highlight that I'm sure Kate mentioned is that as we're looking at Handle with Care, you guys may have some previous information about this, but there are about 60% of American children who are exposed to violence and crime and abuse. And I think the statistics to specifically point out is that there are 40% who are direct victims of 2 or more violence. And then we want to talk about how that exposure is contributing to their education in the schools and the lack of focus, school failure, truancy, suspension, et cetera. And so with Handle with Care initiative, as Kate mentioned, we embarked on a little journey to contact other districts, school districts around Maryland to kind of figure out where we were with Handle with Care and how the program impact was helping them in their local education agencies, and then trying to figure out what were some of the needs in terms of supports and also things that they would like to see from this collaborative partnership between MCSS and MSDE. So I think we're on the slide where it talks about how it works. So I'll jump in there and then I'll give you a little bit more context. So how it works is that a first responder who encounters a kid who may have experienced some level of trauma will then capture that child's name, age, and school. That information is then disseminated to the school the start of that day, and then the person receiving that information is responsible for then distributing that information to the appropriate school personnel. There's no specific details on the trauma event. It's just really to give the schools a heads up notice that, hey, little Johnny may be walking into the school today and they may need some extra TLC, right? And so the folks inside the school will then disseminate that information to the appropriate personnel. It could be the school counselor, it must be the teacher or other personnel who are there who can help, not to go inquire about the traumatic experience or situation, but more so just to be prepared if the student would like to talk about it or just need some extra TLC, as I mentioned, before their day get kicked off. And we walked around and we talked to multiple counties who were implementing this with levels of success. And if you can go to the next slide for me, please. This is kind of how that flow chart works, with the law enforcement being the point of contact in the beginning, and then how that kind of filters through what I just described in the school, where it gets to the principal, and the principal can disseminate to the counselor or the nurse or the teacher or the school psychologist or the pupil personnel, depending on the nature. But again, when the law enforcement is distributing this information, it does not have any specifics on the traumatic event or violent event. It just says Handle with Care, and the principals and the personnel at the school will be prepared to handle and receive that care. If you can go to the next slide, please. So I want to give you more context about this, as this is from 2019 when the program was implemented up until 2023. Now you have to realize there was some COVID came into play. And so if the data is not as up to date as we would like, and that's one of the things that we're going to work on gathering. But this is from 2019 to 2023. You can look at the list of our local education agencies who are currently participating in this program. And you can see where their numbers kind of fall right now up to that date. Now, as the transitioning was happening from GoCap, and we are now taking on that responsibility as two state agencies, some of that information the program coordinators have, but we're not updating to our website. And so one of the things that we're doing is looking to maybe backfill that information to get the most up-to-date numbers. So that's one thing. The second thing is that as Kate and I were going on tour to talk to various LEAs, we recognize and looking at levels of implementation, where they were in terms of, partnerships with their municipals, also where they were with how they disseminated the information across their schools or their counties, and where they may need further support. So what you see here is a snapshot of what numbers look like when we were up to a little bit after COVID and coming out of that COVID time period. And one of the things that we're looking to do in this collaborative partnership is really look at refining and looking at how do we update this data and continue to collect and track that information as well. If you can go to the next slide. So as I stated, that you'll see on that previous slide that not all counties are currently implementing Handle with Care, and that's for one reason or another. So what we learned in our tour of meeting with some of the local education agencies, and also talking with GoCap, who was the former agency who had this program, is that there were some LEAs who were in initial stages, who were just starting to gear up to implement Handle with Care, and then COVID happened, right? And so because of that situation, they haven't made any more progress than they had prior to COVID. And then there are a few LEAs or counties that are not currently implementing at all. And so what we're doing in our goals and moving forward as we embark on this collaboration and this program is to continue to support the programs who currently implement Handle with Care. And then we have begun to outreach to the other counties who are in that implementation stage and looking to get on board with Handle with Care, and just kind of need that guidance on how to set up this program. And then we're also reaching out to the districts where there has not been much of Handle with Care happening. So that's one of our primary goals as we embark on this collaboration. We want to bring back those quarterly meetings with the coordinators so that we can have those discussions on what's working well, what's not working well, what do we need the supports at. And then Britt and I could then lean into the bigger group in West Virginia to kind of take some ideas and bring them back to Maryland so that we can implement this program with full fidelity. Our goal is to have all jurisdictions participating at 100% and being able to provide those levels of support that they need to keep this program running and going, because we feel like it's an effective program. We also want to be as inclusive to our law enforcement agency as possible. So we'll be reaching out to them too, to go on meetings, to schedule meetings, and maybe in person. Britt and I have already discussed going to or scheduling multiple in-person meetings just to kind of, get some look and feel of what programs are needing or what they're doing, and also to meet with our law enforcement officers to figure out what the needs are. That's also going to include some levels of training. We recognize that, so we'll be putting together some materials to help facilitate some trainings too. What we've learned, and Kate and I were part of that discussion, was that on some instances there are the municipal who are providing the training, but then there's other instances where the schools are providing the training. But it's very important that both sides of the house are being trained so that they understand how to coordinate this program and be able to disseminate it. And what we also learned in talking to various counties is that it looks different from county to county, right? It really depends on your partnerships, who's involved, how that information is shared and disseminated. So we may look to uniform some of that, but we also recognize that there's differences across counties, so it will look a little different in terms of implementation and levels of engagement. So if you can go to the next slide. If you have some time, if you have not visited our website, you'll see that we've made some updates to the website already, including demonstrating that MCSS and the MSDE is now the administrators of this program, and Britt and our contact information is listed there as well. If you have questions, you can always reach out to us, and we will do our best to get back to you in a timely manner. We ask for a little bit of patience as we're still building this out on our end to kind of figure out what that role will look like. We're in the implementation stages now, and we really want to get our participating districts back on board with submitting that data, and at the same time still reaching out to those districts that are not participating and trying to figure out how can we get them involved. So if you have some questions, feel free to come off mute. Sorry about the technology issue earlier, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
This is Tom Albin. My question is this service and program available to students and families impacted in the private schools in the state, number one, and hoping that it is this a process whereby your agency would work directly with those schools? Are we looking that we should partner with, for example, I work for the Archdiocese of Baltimore. We have schools in 8 counties in Baltimore City. Are we expected to partner with the county LEAs? What is the thinking on that?
Well, I'm recognizing that there is a number of non-publics across all counties, and in our reaching out to programs who have currently been implementing this, we did not hear much about the non-public side. That does not mean that we cannot be inclusive of them. We would probably or most likely need some level of representation to attend our meetings so that they are actively getting that information, but also making our law enforcement officers in those jurisdictions aware that they can also send these notifications to the non-publics in their area. Now, what's important to note, though, is that there's a system in place. Like, for example, in Carroll County, they use a QR code. All of the law enforcement have this code. They can scan it. That message will get sent out. We just need to have a point of contact, a central point of contact, probably for our non-publics, such as the Archdiocese, who works with multiple non-publics in the area, to be a point of contact so that if something were to happen traumatic to one of their students, the law enforcement officer can also send that message to some primary source who can then disseminate it to the schools so that they're able then to put things in place. Not, again, remember, name, age, and school. And then they're just getting prepared for that child who comes in who may have a traumatic experience. So we're happy to work with you and corporate and bring in the non-publics into the fold of this. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Donald, I don't have a question, but on behalf of Worcester County, I just want to thank you and Brittany and your team for what you do, because this does help a lot of our children who teachers, counselors, and other school personnel would otherwise typically not really have any idea that that child may have been, a victim of domestic violence or witnessed domestic violence or some other type of incident. So thank you, sir.
Absolutely. I appreciate the testimony.
Yes, sir.
All right. I want to thank Dr. Corbin and Ms. Bryant for reviewing the program. I can attest to that, also being, principal in Carroll County for 6 years prior to me being in Howard. Just again, how impactful the program is, and I'm just looking forward to it being utilized even that much more for some of those counties that are kind of at the lower tier. I know that we can get them involved a little bit more as we move forward. So board recognizes, its value and looks forward to it growing in the state of Maryland. So appreciate that.
Can I note that I appreciate you calling me Dr. Corbin, speaking that to existence, but I'm not there yet.
Look,
but I appreciate that.
People do it to me all the time. People do it to me all the time. So I'm glad I did it to somebody else.
Speaking to existence. Appreciate being here. Love the time. And anytime, I'm sure Kate will invite us back again to give you some updates as we build the program out.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
If I can jump in real quick, Joe Cormier. I just want to say for those counties that haven't started it, we just started it here in Calvert County, and it just takes one person as a catalyst to get the sheriff's office, the school system, the local police, and the county commissioners or local government on board. It just takes one voice to send an email. And I appreciate Maryland Center for School Safety coming down and helping to facilitate that meeting and getting that program set up here in Calvert.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. That's important. So I appreciate you sharing that, because again, it may not be counties or jurisdictions that don't want it. They may not know how, or they may think it's more difficult than what it actually is. So appreciate that, sir. Moving forward on the agenda, the next item on our agenda today is an update on the completion of the MCSS requirements defined in the active assailant drill law passed on the 2024 legislative session. MCSS staff, Kim Buckheit and Ms. Bryan, will provide us with this information. Kim and Kate, are you prepared?
Of course we are.
So I'll just kick off and sort of talk through what we've completed that we mentioned last year in 2024. And then I'll turn it over to Kim to talk a little bit about the implementation of the last couple of pieces of the legislation. So House Bill 416 was enacted last legislative session. It was a pretty large task list for us to get delivered, but we have done the team has done a really fantastic job of getting a lot of those deliverables done. So as you know, in October, we published our active assailant guidelines for both active assailant drills as well as training, including lockdowns. Those were published in October. They were sent out. There were a few other pieces that we had to do. We were working with the National Center for School Mental Health to support survey collection, data collection, research study on the impacts of lockdown and active assailant drills on our students. So we began that relationship. The center has been a fantastic partner in this. You met Jerica in one of your last meetings in 2024, but I'm going to turn it over to Kim, and she can talk a little bit about the new surveys that have been developed and some of the other materials that are coming out in 2025.
Yeah, so we really just wanted to kind of close the loop and let everyone know that we have met all the requirements ahead of schedule as well. Kudos to MCSS staff. But yes, so on the lockdown drill impacts.
A little staticky. Like a little static coming through. I'm not sure. If I'm the only one hearing it, you guys let me know.
No, it's crackly.
It's crackly? All right. I know. That's fine. All right, let's see. All right, I'll keep going, and if need be, Kate can take over if it's still, I know. Actually last week in the superintendent's memo, we actually used the superintendent's memo to communicate directly with our local public school superintendents related to the lockdown drill surveys being completed. So that has been, again, a great collaborative effort with the center, with the National Center, to build out those surveys from scratch. So we really have developed items that we think will help us begin to collect information on the impact and effectiveness of lockdown drills, looking at parents, students, and school staff. So those were disseminated last week in terms of that information, and then over the course of the rest of the year, hopefully we will start to see some data rolling in. The very last piece was the Maryland Safe Gun Storage document, and we plan at the beginning of March to also disseminate that via the superintendent's memo through MSD and Dr. Wright's office. The requirement is that local public schools make that available to parents at the beginning of the 25-26 school year. So again, we've created that in advance and are going to be making it available in advance of that time frame as well. So, any questions?
And I do just want to add, in preparation for next school year, we will also be putting together an entire package for the school systems, just as a reminder of all of the requirements that are within House Bill 416. So, because I realize sort of they've been trickling out this year, but as in start of next year, we'll have sort of one package that reminds the school systems of all of the requirements of 416. So
I have a question. This is Maria Navarro. I did see the request come through the superintendent's transmittal, and I think we're going to have some additional questions from the superintendents. The drills it looks like it's a lockdown drill. So if we do not conduct those in our school systems, my reading of it is that we don't survey our community for it. Is that correct?
So if you were the only drills that require a survey, drills and training, let me rephrase, drills and training that require the survey are activist, regardless of what you call them, right? Whether you call them active assailant drills or lockdown drills, but they are the actions involved in responding to an active assailant incident, right? So lock the door, get in a corner, lights out, quiet. Those activities, if you are practicing those activities, either through a drill or training, those will require the survey to be conducted. And the survey is voluntary. So it just needs to be sent, but to be completed, it's voluntary.
So, so we may get additional clarification from the superintendents on this, just FYI from MSD. The other thing is, it's not clear to me how often you'd send out a survey. So if I do a drill, or now you also mention a training of some type, do I send this survey every time I do that?
Yes. So it
Is that the requirement that was put forward in the law, in the way the law is written?
As our understanding, yes.
Okay. I just want to make a note that this is that we'll go back and take a look at it, because it is highly disruptive to sort of day-to-day operations, and it's gonna raise a concern from the school systems, I think, as I go back and talk to the superintendents. So we may need additional clarification, and I think it just was not clear from the memo. So you're going to get a flurry of questions from the superintendents from multiple jurisdictions, and we may just want to get ahead of it with clarifying questions. I'm happy to have actually Jason Stoddard's on the call here with me. He's my director, you know him. He's my director of safety and security. But we may want to put in writing some things just to clarify specifics of, because the training was also not I mean, when you're talking about different kinds of trainings, there's drills, and drills are trainings, but other trainings, I just need to understand what that is. So we can put something in writing and send it, because I can guarantee you this is going to be a little problematic, especially for administrators having to comply every single time they do a drill, sending these surveys out to families and notifying families. And then also, I think we're interpreting differently, and I just need clarification on how we're interpreting these drills.
Understood. Happy to work with you on that. Happy to provide whatever additional clarification and would be helpful. I do want to say it is specific to active assailant and lockdown drills. So if you do an evacuation drill, if you do your required fire drills, those are not part of this. So those are handled separately, and those do not require surveys.
And active assailant drills, I thought we had most of the state moved away from those anyways, because of the research around not doing those any further. So again, if I'm not doing those in my county, then by default, and that will be one of the clarifications, I don't do this survey.
So if you conduct a lockdown drill, or if you call it an active assailant drill or a lockdown drill, if you practice those functions, those are the functions that will require a survey. Yep. But yeah,
and
happy to work with you on that.
yeah, and we can you hear me, Kate? Others, okay. And we can also go back to the legislation, because I also believe that there is some requirement of notification following lockdown drills. So Kate and I can go back to the full bill text and provide a sort of comprehensive overview of the bill as well for folks. That's helpful. Mm-hmm.
And can I add something?
Of course, yes.
Just for clarification, so none of us get confused. I know that the requirements in this bill specifically outlined that we could not use simunitions. There could not be any children used as actors or role players or anything to simulate an actual mass casualty incident. But I do think that these drills are extremely important, sadly, because of the world that we live in today. So I really think that we have to have our children prepared to react, God forbid, in any type of situation like that.
And Sheriff, we completely agree with you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And the intention of the bill, so I know Delegate Ebersol is here as well, is not to eliminate the use of lockdown drills at all, is to ensure that lockdown drills, when they're occurring, are occurring in a non-traumatic manner. So that was sort of the intended text within the piece of legislation, was for us to look at the impact, right? Are these experiences traumatic to students or not? And there hasn't been any real research, robust research or evidence to say one way or the other, right? So that is the intent of these. Yeah.
All right. So thank you, Kim and Kate, for that update. Again, I just want to congratulate you both on meeting all the deadlines and requirements ahead of schedule. As always, I mean, we appreciate the efforts made by MCSS staff and look forward to hearing more about the findings from the survey. Moving forward on the agenda, we're going to, Ms. Buckeye is now going to share with us legislative bills of interest that relate to school safety. So, Kim, are you ready?
Yep. And my apologies for the other audio. Switch to different microphone.
No, you're good now. It's crystal clear.
Good. Thank you. So just some of the bills that MCSS is watching. There have been a few that it's been a nice opportunity for us to collaborate with our other state partners, and I'll kind of point those out. Senate Bill 136, and I will forward the slide deck from today. So these 4 slides that you'll also have, you are always welcome to use these slides when you're talking to your local constituents as well. It's part of why we do this, is to advance that information. So Senate Bill 136, House Bill 157, related to the Safe Schools Fund and sort of grant allocations. We had, again, some very robust, good conversations with individuals related to this. So basically is that grants shall be made to each LEA, and that grant money that's not used within the course of a year may be reallocated to LEAs that have already fully expended their allocation and demonstrate need. So this was within 1 fiscal year. Grant money that remains not used can be shifted to other LEAs that have fully used those funds, is what Senate Bill 136 was speaking to. There are 2 school bus safety bills that are in there. The one that is probably there was one related to seatbelts. This one, House Bill 200, actually creates a work group to study school bus safety. It's being referred to as the Maryland School Bus Safety Act of 2025. Basically, it creates a work group, governor appointed members to study and identify issues related to safety for and behavior of students and bus drivers. So it's just an interesting one for us to watch to see where that goes. There were a number of pre-files and have since also some additional ones, bills related to student cellular phone use policies. And I've kind of listed all of those that are encompassing of this. What they all have in common is that locals would develop a policy that prohibits the use of students' use of cellular devices at some point in time during the day. In some of the bills, it's more specific and prescribed in terms of what instructional time means and times of day. One of them proposes a kind of pilot study with 2 systems to look at the impact. So they each have some minor differences, but all in all are really recommending that there is local policy that creates some guardrails related to cellular device by students during the day. House Bill 141 is interesting. It's the Task Force on Loneliness and Isolation. This is really kind of interest to school safety in that there is evidence that loneliness, isolation leads to individuals in generally being online vulnerable to being targeted by perpetrators looking to kind of do harm and radicalize them. So it's one that we're watching also just to see, because I think this could be an opportunity where we look at, so the task force is looking at evaluating causes, contributing factors to this sense of loneliness, but also evaluating methods of preventing and then recommendations to combat. So again, really could assist us in that school safety arena also. House Bill 694 was a relatively recent one. And so these 2 on this slide were definitely, we have had meetings in collaboration with MSDE, the IAC, Department of Disabilities, actually MDEM, really came together to kind of look at the bill text and look at what implications there are for all of us. So House Bill 694 is related to individuals with disabilities and basically the ADA compliance of main entrances. So it also included some text relates to emergency plan submissions and analysis by MSDE, and that MSDE would create a report to the General Assembly related to compliance. So there were some this bill would have some new implications for operationally for a number of agencies. And then House Bill 782 was just on Friday. So we actually already had a quick collaborative conversation with some of our partners, requires MSDE to study how best to detect a deadly weapon in a public middle high school on property and have schools rapidly notify law enforcement when a weapon has been detected. The study is also to include a comprehensive audit of the current security infrastructure used in each public school. So this would be all new sort of legislative language that's in 782, and we'll be working again with our state agencies to look at that impact for that. But that is actually it. Knock on wood, it's been, hasn't been as frantic as the 2024 legislative session was for us. And Kate, Delegate Ebersol, anyone else who's been watching, feel free to jump in with some bills maybe that we should be watching and we're not, or any other comments, thoughts.
There's one in the chat. They just want to know if you can email these particular slides with the legislative session. And then
Yeah, we'll do.
Mr. Kamir has his hand up as well.
All right, good morning. I just wanted to ask if MCSS is having any budget cuts with the governor's budget that he put out. I know the Department of Developmental Disability Administration is taking a big cut for list services. So I just wanted to see if MCSS was facing any of those similar issues.
Yeah, I'll leave that to Kate to answer.
I was just saying, we're not. So Joseph, our budget is, our operational budget is stable for fiscal year 26 as proposed by the governor. And our grant funding will be the same with the addition of a couple of new grants potentially as we see how the budget bill goes through session. So, but as of right now, we are stable.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kim, for the overview. I know with some of these bills, because I had the opportunity to actually lobby for a bill recently, so I know the hard work that goes into all this and what you're going to support and that type of thing. So I look forward to how things work out in the future with these legislative bills. We're going to move forward on our agenda, and our final item on the agenda is information about the School Resource Officer of the Year program. MCSS staff member, Mr. Ron Pierce, will provide information about this program as well as some updates on changes to the SRO program happening this year. We are all ears, Ron. This is exciting stuff.
Thank you, sir. And last but hopefully not least, we're going to talk a little bit about the SRO of the Year program. That was something we thought of last year. Hope you guys can hear me okay. I was playing with Mike earlier, making sure I didn't have those issues. Okay. At the conference last year, we discussed what might be good to add as a feature for what we're doing to recognize the good work that people do in schools regarding school safety. And this was one of the things that was brought up. So we will be taking some submissions, applications from school systems and schools regarding an outstanding SRO of that school system. We're looking for folks who make a real positive impact in the school climate, as well as how involved are they in activities outside of school in the community. There are some good models for this type of award, and NASRO has done something similar to this for years nationwide. So we have some good things to go by. I know they have to have also have completed our program, which is a requirement to be an SRO in Maryland anyway. But several outstanding members of this group, as well as two of our own folks, will be taking a look at all those submissions when they come in. And hopefully, we potentially want to present this award at our conference this year, which hopefully all of you will be at. So that's, in a nutshell, what we're looking to do this year with SRO of the Year. This, in the last several months, we've been doing quite a bit of work. If you want to go to if anybody has any questions about this, before I move to the next slide. Hearing none. Aaron, you want to shift over to our training updates? We have every 3 years with NPCTC, we have to recertify our SRO and SSC training academy. This was the year, 2025 was the year we needed to do that. We started that process right after the last session last year. And as in fact, today is the first day of our 2025 academy season. There's 7 different academies we put on. They're done throughout the state. It's in Dorchester County starting today. It's a bit of a different format. We do a lot of collect a lot of feedback and surveys from folks, not only the folks who take the class, but their supervisors as well, and some of the school safety coordinators about how we can make this course easier to access and better in every way. And we listened and we cut back some on some of the non-synchronous training. So the virtual, on-demand videos, we phased those out. There's only one now currently that needs to be completed prior to the virtual sessions, which start, like I said, first one starts today. There's a total of 4 days of synchronous virtual training, which takes place on Zoom. So from Monday through Thursday, and then the following week, there's 5 days of in-person training. So that's a little bit different format, more in person and less videos. That's what they asked for. So we think it's more effective. We also added some new programs that they thought, and some of our instructors thought would be helpful. One of them, starting from the bottom up there, tabletop exercises. 2 or 3 of these were actually suggested by Britt Flores. She's not currently on the call, I don't think, today, but she's probably teaching. She teaches quite a few of our courses, and she's going to be teaching a few more this year. We do tabletops exercises with schools currently. Some of you may have been on those. We're going to show SROs and SSEs how to do those, how to be a part of those, how to be a part of that team, and work through exercises in that fashion to help prepare schools for those situations. And one of the things that came up, we have quite a few more school security employees this year and for the past several years post-COVID than we've had in the past. And self-care for them has been a big issue. I think it's sometimes difficult for them in adjusting from what jobs they had to this new job and how to deal with some of the stress that goes along with that. And with SROs as well. There was, there's just quite a bit of culture change from what they may have been doing to what they're doing now. Celebrating multicultural and generational differences. That's a class that Britt teaches. It's a great course. It fits right in with some of the other courses we teach with regard to disability awareness. And last but not least, bullying in schools. So we also introduced some hate bias prevention material in that class. It goes along with our implicit bias course. That's a separate course, but teaching signs and symptoms of bullying and how to respond to those when you see them or hear them from students. We wanted to kind of make that its own standalone course. And I believe that might be it for me. If anybody has any questions, there's a schedule currently of our academies that are on the website. If you're interested, and you're always welcome to drop in if you'd like during the in-person courses to see some of these things.
All right, thank you, Mr. Pierce, for that information. School resource officers, we all know how critical they are to the success of schools. So to me, I was very excited to learn about the School Resource Officer of the Year program that's being put in place, because they do so much to help school leaders and teachers and just the whole school community. So them being recognized is awesome. So appreciate your work around that. It looks like the time is now 10:52. I always brag about the time when we are ahead of schedule and we get people out before the time that we're supposed to. So the next advisory board meeting will be on May 5th. Think about that, people. Next time we'll see each other's faces. Hopefully it will be nice and warm, and we'll be thinking about summertime at that point. That will also be at 10 a.m. to 12 in person. Information about the meeting and the location will be forthcoming. So excited to see everybody in person in May. Please not hesitate to contact Ms. Bryan or Ms. Buckheit with any questions or items that need attention before that May meeting. This is just a small reminder for those people who are not in schools, but this week is National School Counseling Week. So if you know somebody that is a school counselor, please send a shout out to those individuals this week for all of their hard work in our schools. And also, this is Black History Month. So again, I tell people all the time, Black history is American history. So let's celebrate the great things that African Americans had contributed to America this month as well. So with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion, sir.
All right. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? All right. This meeting concludes. I want to thank everybody for your time. Have a great week, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.